A very good evening and welcome to all of you to the 21st webinar in the ICFAI's Wise Views Interactive Webinar Series. We have with us Mr. Gautam Gupta, the CEO of Paradise Biryani. It is called Paradise Food Courts Private Limited. Mr. Gautam Gupta, a hearty welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Sudhakar ji. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today.
Excellent. At the outset, let me wish you and all the viewers a very happy Vinayak Chauthi or Ganesh Chaturthi. And we hope that it is going to be an obstacle-free year ahead for all of us. And let's pray for it and let's work for it. Thank you all for joining today in spite of being a holiday. And we thought that today is the best day for us to sit down, reflect, and learn a few things. And luckily, our guest also thinks the same. And I'm very happy and thankful to Gautam ji for joining on Ganesh Chaturthi holiday. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about the transformation that has taken place at Paradise Biryani, which is a heritage brand. This is going to be a conversation. Initially, there'll be a talk delivered by Mr. Gautam, and then there'll be a conversation based on the questions and answers. I am also joined by my esteemed colleague, Professor R. Prasad. Professor Prasad will be initiating the moderation. The questions and answers will be started soon after the talk being delivered by Mr. Gautam. Now, please permit me to share the screen and I will introduce Mr. Gautam. As I said, he's the CEO and agenda you know very well. It's going to be 1 hour session. Mr. Gautam is an alumnus of IIT Delhi and IIM Lucknow. In a career spanning more than 2 decades, Mr. Gautam has been living his passion for consumer businesses. He initially joined Reckitt Benckiser, then ITC, and then ventured into retail pharma. Recently, he got into the evergreen sector of food services and found it exceedingly exciting, and it's a fast evolving industry, as we all know. At Paradise, Mr. Gautam is committed to building a truly global Indian brand in the biryani space based on the core values of quality of food and passion for service. This is a brief introduction of the guest today. With this, I now hand it over back to Mr. Gautam Gupta to initiate the discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I request you to silence your mics. Please keep it on mute. There is bound to be some ambient noise because of the festival. There's a lot of excitement all around us. However, we'll try and minimize this ambient noise to the extent possible. One such way is to mute all your mics, and we will have enough opportunities to interact. You can key in your questions. We'll pick up those questions as well for the interaction. Now I request Mr. Gautam to start his talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhakar ji. I hope my voice is audible.
Yes, it is.
Thanks for your kind introduction. So I will start sharing my screen. I have a small presentation for the talk to take you through. I think the most asked question is, last 1.5 years, is my screen visible? So let me ask that question again.
It is beautiful.
Fantastic. So I've just put it on slideshow.
It is. It's showing up.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. And over the next 25-30 minutes, I'll hopefully take you through. I don't think 30 minutes are good enough for capturing the journey of almost 70 years of a heritage brand, but I'll try and do justice to it in my limited capacity. I think the first thing which this topic really, was when I was thinking about the topic was that normally you don't have heritage and business word go together very often. It's a very rare combination. And when you have a rare combination, you have challenges. At the same time, you have a great opportunity. So I hope today I will be able to talk about the great opportunity that we have as an Indian brand. At the same time, how do we navigate some of these challenges? So the focus is going to be on learning. But before that, let me just briefly share with you the journey of Paradise Biryani, right? So as you can see, Paradise Biryani is called the world's favorite biryani. And this hoarding, which was put some time back, actually kind of just tells you that we are simply irresistible since 1953. We are known for the world's favorite biryani. And at the same time, the big reason why Paradise has, become so popular as well as has sustained a very strong business is for the core product, which is biryani. And it is reflected in this next slide, which is celebrities. So if you walk into any Paradise, we have a celebrity wall where we have sports people, we have Bollywood, we have Tollywood, we have cricketers, we have politicians, media people, all of them, some of them international, some of them national celebrities have visited us because it's become an iconic brand associated with Paradise, right? We have great brands in Hyderabad, like, Charminar itself. Hyderabadi biryani itself is a brand, and which is popular across the world. But within the Hyderabadi biryani space, we are also something which is, we believe, are become an iconic brand. So actually, the journey started in 1953 with a very small cafe, which was not even a restaurant, which was next to a Paradise Theatre. And now today you can see on the right hand side is possibly one of the largest Indian restaurants in the world, right? So we can actually seat at any point in time 1,200 people in our main restaurant in Secunderabad. Of course, as I will talk to you about, we have grown into multiple locations and multiple cities. But this has been the iconic journey from 1953, a small cafe, 100-seater cafe, to today the largest restaurant possibly in the world, definitely in India, of Indian cuisine, and also growing in different cities. So how did this journey start? As I mentioned, it was started by one Mr. G. Hussain, who started a small canteen and cafe. In fact, in old times, we used to have these theaters, and nearby a theater, there used to be a cafe. So it was a cafe. It was not even a restaurant. So it served Irani chai, coffee, and snacks. There was no biryani, right? So that's the interesting part I learned, that only after almost in 60s, which is after 10 years, the cafe was transformed into a 100-seater restaurant. And for the first time, biryani was added to the menu. So while the origin of the location is 1953, the biryani actually got added about 7-10 years later. 1978 was a defining moment for Paradise because our current chairman, Mr. Ali Himmati, took over the reins of the restaurant. And he's a visionary, right? So he could see the potential of the brand. And as in the next slide, I will talk about how he started building one restaurant into multiple, and build a brand which was now become world renowned. So as part of the journey, of course, Paradise is known for many firsts in the city of Hyderabad. So first, air-cooled family restaurant opened in the first floor. Then Paradise Takeaway opened. Paradise Movie Theatre unfortunately closed down in 87, but Paradise brand continued to grow into popularity of the cuisine. 90s, we saw further expansion, major restructure in 96, modern technology. So again, Paradise has always been ahead of the curve in terms of modernizing their processes, modernizing their kitchen, modernizing their customer experience. And, they have always been ahead. Even today, we keep that as a benchmark that we should be ahead of the market. And in 2009, actually till 2009, it was a single location at what is now called Paradise Circle. So actually the public place called the Circle has been named Paradise Circle, not because Paradise has wanted it, because it has just become so synonymous with Paradise. In fact, the metro station is also called Paradise, and we have had nothing to do with it. It is just that, if you land into the airport and people say, Kidhar jana hai, Paradise jana hai, means they will come directly to Secunderabad. So first venture was just Masab Tank in 2009. So for so many years, you can see it was just one single restaurant. And it grew. This restaurant grew from 100-seater to a 1,200-seater. And our chairman always says this very interestingly, that like a biryani is cooked in many layers, the restaurant also grew in many, many layers, right? So we have many floors now in the restaurant, and we have close to 600-700 employees who are working in that one location. I would say another defining moment for the brand was really in the period of Jan 2015, when it was envisaged that we should open Paradise outside Hyderabad, and the first outlet was opened in Bangalore. And from then, I think it has not been, it's been continuous journey of expanding. We have 42 branches spread across 8 cities. I think the aspiration for us, and I will talk about those aspirations a little while, is really to be the largest biryani player. We are the largest biryani player in the country, but to be having presence across top 20 cities, 5 years in 500 odd outlets. If you look at it, in 2015, when I joined the company, I had two questions in my mind. I had worked in food services business, and I saw that only international and multinational brands were the ones who were doing well. So pizza chains were having more than 1,000 outlets. Burger chains were having 600, 700 outlets. So as a passionate Indian, I asked this question to myself, look, Indian food is so common. I mean, it's so popular. Dosa, vada pav, biryani, all these are very, very popular foods in India. But why don't we have a chain which is like pan India with 500, 600,000 outlets? And I got one answer that while there are strong legacy, strong heritage, but applying modern management principle to heritage brands to make them scalable was something which was an opportunity and which was not really done in a very significant way. And this is exactly the positive which brands like McDonald's and Pizza Hut and all of them had, because they thought scale like nobody else did. And I will talk a little bit about it. So today, obviously, we serve Hyderabad biryani. We have Hyderabadi cuisine, Indian, Chinese. Over a period of time, we have evolved our formats. Again, I will talk about it. So we have full service restaurant, takeaways. Home delivery has become very, very popular over the last 5 years, as you can imagine, and obviously in COVID times, even more so. And in food services business, you have to innovate regularly. So we have things like Kebab Festival, Halim, Chef Special, Biryanis, and so on and so forth. So I think it's been an exciting journey. And this is something which you can imagine from a small cafe in 1953 to having 42 branches spread over 8 cities in such a, it's such a wonderful journey. I have been part of this journey for over 5 years, and I can imagine that this journey is going to be a very long and, will make all of us proud to take this brand forward. Coming to the next part. So this was essentially about, short, capturing those 70 years into 7 minutes, I would say. But now I will talk about what are the learnings of transforming a heritage business, right? I think this is something which is the core topic. So I will talk about two areas, two sections. One is change management. In heritage businesses, legacy businesses, what is the importance of change management? What are the challenges? And I will share this from a professional point of view. So when I joined in 2015, it was a fairly, family-owned business, and promoters wanted to create a legacy and hand it over to professionals. And what a professional can do positively in a change management scenario for a positive change is what my learning is, and I will talk about this. Second is that, in the industry that we operate, what are the ingredients of success of Paradise over the last 65 years and more so going forward as well? So first, I will talk about change management. And usually change management is a very complex topic. And I'm sure, we have a lot of people who are sort of know about management principles in this forum as well. A lot of erudite people. But I think in simple terms, I've tried to explain it through a simple analogy to make it interesting. So my simple analogy is like this, right? So it could sound crazy, so that's a little bit of a qualifier from my side. But change management, to my mind, is like driving a borrowed car, and I'm stressing on borrowed car, on a long road full of potholes. Sounds crazy. Of course, when I thought of it, it sounded crazy to me. But let's hold on. Let me just explain what this all means. So it's like driving a borrowed car on road full of potholes. So essentially, the car is, let's say, the business. The driver is yourself. Let's say the CEO, who is a professional who has got into a car. Car is borrowed. It is not your car. So this car has owned by somebody else, and they have handed over to you for this long journey ahead. And the journey is full of challenges, which is reflected in terms of these potholes. The picture also which I put. So this analogy, when you look at this analogy, there are 4 key principles which come out. If a professional has to succeed in creating positive change in a legacy business, in a heritage business, to take it forward, these are my learnings. Knowing at what speed to drive the car. So if you imagine driving too slow or too fast rather on this kind of a pothole road, you will possibly damage the car, right? And every time when I'm saying car, think about the business which you are, sort of inheriting or you're taking over. But if you drive too slow, you may not be able to reach your destination in time, because at the end of the day, business is all about creating value over a period of time. So it is very important to drive change management, have that right sweet spot of the speed at which you want to drive change. If you drive change too fast, it can be detrimental. And if you drive change too slow, it can be meaningless. Second is feeling for the car. I think that is very, very important. So, you have to get into the owner's shoes and hearts to understand how does it feel to run a business for so long, and what are the emotions associated with that business. It is extremely important for you to feel for the car. So there will be jerks and bumps along the way, but like any any owner of the car would feel, you need to feel for the car, because empathy is a very, very important part of change management. The third part is be a determined driver. So essentially, when you are in this car, you will have some co-passengers also, which is effectively your team. You will hire a team and you will build teams to drive this change management. And at the end of the day, there will be difficulty. You can imagine it's not really easy to ride on this road. There will be bumps, there will be jerks, there will be some deviations. Sometimes you have to go off road, come back on the road, so on and so forth. And it can be very, very challenging. But you have to keep a very strong face. You might be feeling sometimes very, very low as a leader, but you have to make sure that you have a very strong face in front of your team, because your co-passenger, which is your team, is essentially looking at you for inspiration every day. So as a human being, you will have your ups and downs, but make sure that for your team, you always have a very strong face. Very strong and determined driver is needed for this kind of journey. The last point, but not the least, is that you may run out of gas. And gas means that your car may actually run out of fuel. So you will have to have the energy along with your team to push the car to the next petrol station. Again, in sort of an analogy, what it means is that you might have challenges, you might feel yourself, your energy, you might feel deflated. Sometimes when you're transforming business, you might have capital constraints, you might have fund constraints. But what you can not have is not energy. Never run out of energy. You need to have extremely high level of energy, demonstrate it, exude it. At the same time, I think in today's scenario, it is also important to remain very, very fit and energetic, because a high level of energy is extremely important for driving this kind of a change. So I thought of this interesting analogy to make it interesting, at the same time drive home the point that to drive positive change in a heritage business, in a legacy business, especially from a professional's point of view, it is very important to keep these things in mind. The next section is going to be about, as we are in the food services industry, I'm calling it the key ingredients of the success of Paradise. So I think I talked about change management in general, may apply to many contexts. I'm now going to talk specifically about our business, the business of running restaurants, a food services business, and why I believe Paradise is been successful and will continue to be very successful. And there are again 4 pillars to it: passion for product, customer centricity, business model, and culture. And I will talk maybe a couple of slides on each before concluding. So first, on passion for product. I think this industry, if you look at all the successful brands which have really come successful, really they have a hero product. They have an outstanding product which customers love. And in our case, it is biryani. So what we have to make sure is that the product remains outstanding everywhere, whether it is location, whether it is weekday, weekend, morning, evening. And that is what we call passion for product. So, you can see that, our product has a very traditional recipe. We work a lot on ingredients and ingredient quality and making sure that the right proportion of spices and everything is together. We have a very, unique dum process, which is, for people who know food, is slow cooking of the ingredients together to have flavors in every morsel. And then you have your team, which actually does this day in, day out. So I think this is something which is a central point of all our efforts. We make sure that our processes are in place over a period of time. These traditional processes we have tried to modernize. There is a huge focus on training the team, making sure they are motivated on a day-to-day basis. And this is not easy, because if it was easy, then everybody would be doing this, and not only a few brands have been able to do this. So I think this is the first part, which is essentially the passion for product, and this is the core part of success of Paradise. Why we have been successful. The second part is customer centricity, and you must have seen a lot of brands, including Amazon, and all, talk so much about customer centricity. What is customer centricity? In our terms, customer centricity is exemplified by this phrase which we call Atithi Devo Bhava. This is a Sanskrit phrase, but essentially it means guest is akin to God. And we take it very seriously. We take it so seriously that we have built it into our, very, very regular programs, philosophy, induction for new people, training programs, reward and recognition, and so on and so forth. So our philosophy essentially is that we want to make sure customer comes first. And that is something which is important because we are essentially in the consumer business. What we have to also do apart from philosophy is also have tools and techniques and technology to be able to do that. So, as you may know that in retail business, especially distributed retail, loyalty programs play a very, very big role. They are successful loyalty programs across industries. We also launched our loyalty program in 2018, which was essentially called Paradise Circle. It was in line with the location which has become so iconic, which is essentially the Paradise Circle. And it basically says that how do I reward customers? How do I reward customers in more than one way? How do I make those occasions special for them? And today, it's a very simple program. You have so many transactions in a couple of months. You earn a free biryani, you earn points, and you can redeem them. And we have more than 3 million members already. More than 70 to 80% of the business today for us comes through the loyalty program. What is it also done? Because what we also do is that every time a customer has
I can't come. Huh? I can't come today.
Every time we have customers who come, they get a SMS from us, and thousands of customers give us feedback. That SMS actually is linked to a feedback, and they give us feedback, and this is what we call voice of customer, right? And this is a huge amount of analytics which has gone behind analyzing that information, data, creating dashboards, and helping our restaurant CEOs. We don't call our restaurant managers, we call them restaurant CEOs, because the focus is to empower them, because they are the CEOs of their restaurants. So this tool actually helps them improve their business on a day-to-day basis. Make sure that if customers are not happy, we talk to them, understand, and make sure that we focus on customer delight. The next part really is business model, which is very important because I think while we have a great product, we are very customer-centric organization. It is also important that a business gets sustained because of profitability. And this is something which, in a very dynamic world that we are, is something which we have to really. It's a very important point if you have to have a sustainable business, right? So this is my, in fact, I say this every time. This is my favorite chart. From left to right, you see 2015, as I mentioned, the first store in Bangalore was launched. Then we launched in Chennai, Gurgaon, and Calcutta in 2020. You can see that over a period of time, last 5 years, such a huge transformation has happened in the business, right? So earlier we used to have very large formats, like 12,000, 10,000 square feet stores are pretty large by any standards. And that was because in Hyderabad we had large format stores and there was a lot of dine-in focus on this. Most of the business, 70, 80% business was dine-in. But as we saw, when delivery came in, people started ordering on Zomato, Swiggy, we started saying that, yes, we need to have a smaller format. We need to have a format where people can dine in, but also we should be able to deliver from the store. They should come and, pick up the packet and move. And you can see that from 12,000 square feet to about 1,200 square feet, we have moved. And now is the day of omni-channel. So you should not, any department, I think biggest learning we have got, especially COVID has accelerated it, is that you should not depend on one channel like a dine-in or a takeaway or only delivery. In fact, COVID, when I mentioned cloud kitchen, I think this was an experiment and we realized that you should not depend on any other channel, any one channel. You should give customer access to all channels. So whether he wants or he or she wants to come and dine in, that option should be there. If he or she wants to come pick up the food and go home, that option should be there. Similarly, you should have also the option of ordering from home. So I think that is something, evolutionary brand changes with changing times. We have seen so many examples in management where brands do not change with changing times and they become irrelevant. So in today's time, especially, a lot of I would say unimaginable changes have happened in the last 18 months. And for us, for any industry, it has to be, people have to, and the management has to really make sure that the brand evolves, the business evolves quickly in line with time, hopefully ahead of time, but definitely you can't be left behind if not ahead of time. In addition to this, I think delivery, I would focus a little more. So I mentioned delivery business today across, if you check with a lot of players across, it could be anywhere between 40 to 50%. In fact, delivery was the only business available for a significant period of time during COVID, and it was a blessing in disguise in some ways. We work, as you are aware of, brands like Swiggy, Zomato, so we have a very strong and long relationship with these players. But we also learned that it is important to have your own mechanism, because some people who are really loyal to the brand like to have the brand app and sort of engage with them. And incidentally, we launched our own app almost 9 months back, and it has been a resounding success for us because it is integrated with the loyalty program, so you can now actually earn and burn your rewards anywhere. So you come and dine in, you can redeem in delivery or takeaway or vice versa, which is not something which is available with many brands. It is one-stop reference for customer profile and is association with Paradise, so you can see history, you can pre-order your popular dish and so on and so forth. Because of all this technology, we are able to customize and promo settings, options at store, city, cluster level. So we give meaningful value to the customers. And we also work with last mile partners, and integration is a very important aspect of technology. So I think the company has invested in these kind of technologies to really take the brand forward in the way the industry is moving. The last part, and I would say you talk to CEOs across consumer businesses, they will tell you that execution is a very important aspect of success, and execution is directly correlated to the culture of your organization. So I think I'll talk about the last pillar, which is a very important pillar, is culture. And you will see an interesting slide on this. So we call our culture, we have given it a sort of mnemonic, which and be good is actually, be good means in itself something, you can enjoy and you have to be good, which is great. But this also has those 6 core values which we live by. These 6 core values, we did some research about 4 years back when we actually called experts to say that we just need to, there is something about Paradise which has made it tick over the last 60-65 years. We want to articulate it so that we can sort of work on it, and we can make sure that we remind ourselves that there was a sense, but it was not structured for us. So we talk to these experts, talk to our promoters, people, customers who had been coming for 40 years. There are employees who have been working for many years, more than 2-3 decades. We talk to management, new customers. They came up with this, and this was a brilliant thing because we believe that all these values capture the essence of Paradise, and this is something which we try and live by on a daily basis. So being passionate to serve, I think very, very important. In full respect for all, whether a customer walks in to the restaurant or he drives in a Mercedes, our team will give them equally the same respect. Generosity, I mean, it is very important, and I think that's part of philosophy, the way our food portions are, our pricing, we just believe in generosity. Ownership is a very important part because ownership solves for a lot of challenges. Once you have ownership, you will be able to figure out anything which comes across to you as a challenge. Openness to learn, I think, as I mentioned, continuous evolution is so important for a brand like this. So hence employees should be open to learn and change and unlearn also in the during the process, and doing it together, which is essentially, because at the end of the day, nobody can succeed alone. It is all about teamwork. It is about teams working together as machinery to take the brand forward. So I think these were the 4 pillars, as I mentioned, and this is something which is very, very close to our heart and something which we, believe in very strongly. I believe continuously that this is a journey. I think it's been a great journey, and the journey continues. And what is important is to have faith in it. Everything can happen if you believe that, if you have faith in your journey and you continue to drive in the right direction. I think that's the last slide, I believe, and I will close this presentation with this slide, and I hope I've been on time somehow. I guess I've been on time somehow. Yeah.
Fantastic, Gautamji. It's wonderful listening to you. Paradise Biryani is a favorite brand of not just the people from Hyderabad, but people from all over the country. Your talk has actually put in place the chronological order in which it has evolved. It's very difficult to actually put that across 70 years, but you have done it so beautifully well. And now we can understand in what leaps and bounds it has grown and what kind of time it has taken, time capsules. They're not equal, and obviously they are not equal for any brand. One thing that I remember is that this brand, which is become generic to biryani these days in Hyderabad and India, any outsider would say, I would like to go and have Paradise Biryani rather than biryani. I think that's a fantastic stage to evolve to, and therefore it's a heritage brand. Biryani is part of our culture, and Paradise is part of our heritage. Thank you very much for this wonderful talk. The two things that I remember, as you very nicely put, is change management, and change management is driving in a borrowed car on road full of potholes. Requires full of energy and also empathy. Empathy is a very big factor, as you have mentioned. You need to keep yourself in the shoes of the owner and also for many other stakeholders as well in order to bring about the change management. And it decides the pace, it determines the distance that you will like to reach when it is measured against time. So it is fantastic. And of course, the other one is beautiful in terms of the ingredients of your success. I think many lessons are there for us, and I'm sure we will go over those lessons one after the other as we begin our questions and answers. But the faith in the journey which you have connotated, that you are in the right direction, will keep helping you pursue your path, and that is a fantastic takeaway for all of us. Ever since I met you first at Indian School of Business, when we were on the jury of the Boardroom Challenge, which was actually held there a couple of years back. I've been following you, and I'm very, very happy that the presentation turned out to be full of insights and learning for us as well as for all of viewers. Thank you very much on that count. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now begin the question and answer sessions. I thank all of you for keying in the questions at the time of registration, and you're going to key in further a few more questions as possible for all of you. There's going to be, as I mentioned, a lot of ambient noise. We will live with that for a while, but at least what is in our hands is to mute our mic, and that is the best that we can do at this point in time. So let's live with that. And the second thing that I would like to do now is I will call my esteemed colleague, Professor R. Prasad, and I will introduce Professor Prasad. Professor Prasad is a director for academic wing at ICFAI Group. He is an alumnus of IIT Bombay and IIM Calcutta. He himself was an entrepreneur before joining ICFAI. And so entrepreneurship, corporate experience, and academic exposure all put together is roughly about 3 decades of rich experience he brings to the table. He is the architect of the latest program that we have launched. It is called Online MBA Program. It is doing extremely well. And he acts as a professor as well as mentor for the Online MBA Program. May I welcome you, Professor R. Prasad, to initiate the question and answer session. And then, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm reminding you, kindly mute your mics and we'll have a disturbance-free kind of session. Thank you, Professor Prasad. Over to you.
Thank you, Professor Sudhakar Rao. I think in a very brief presentation of about 30 minutes, the structure of most of the questions which have come to us, we have more than 100 questions. And what we have done is we have built a structure into that, and the structure of the question has got responded to. So we have very similar cluster names as you have brought in. So I think in many of these questions, what we would also like to hear is certain instances, certain kind of a case view where you'll be able to highlight what you meant. Is something that we look forward to. So I'll start with the first one. We have understood how the brand has evolved over the years. Can you throw some light on some of the significant challenges which you faced in keeping with the core, keeping the core as a heritage brand while you modernized it?
Yeah, so I think that's a very, very important question, especially when you are scaling up, right? So if you look at the pillars, I think the most important challenge was to make sure that as you are moving to different locations, you are able to have a standard customer experience. I think it is very, very important that a customer, when they enter Paradise, whether they enter Secunderabad or High Tech City or Koramangala in Bangalore or OMR in Chennai or Southern Avenue in Calcutta or Sona Road in Gurgaon, they have the same experience. And I think it is a whole. I mean, it's a huge exercise in itself, right? Starting from your sourcing of ingredients, making sure your quality of ingredients, your internal processes are automated and they are made in such a way that they are error free and variances are less. I think to people where you build a culture of strong training, making sure people are going out of their way to make customers feel good. I think all of this was a challenge, because at the end of the day, when you have a boutique or a brand which is when I joined, it was about 14 outlets, and we did face a lot of challenges because a lot of things were not standardized. It was all very people dependent. If a guy was good, you would find that restaurant was run very well. But if a guy was maybe less than good, the restaurant was a little, not run well, right? So what we said is that we have to eliminate variations as much as possible. That is where I think the whole scalability, when I talked about the business model, we have really worked on our back end as well as front end to make sure there is standardized customer experience. So I think the single biggest challenge, if you ask me, is standardized customer experience, and that has been the biggest effort also. So we set up our R&D center. So we didn't have any R&D center. It was all either kitchen or front of the house. We set up our R&D kitchen team, R&D team in 2017, and actually they brought in a lot of insights from across the industry to say, how do we make sure that we have high quality? How do we make sure we have standardized equipment, we have standardized processes, SOPs, measurement. If you have an SOP but you do not measure it, you will never be able to understand what is the variation. So I think measurement criteria, automation of measurement, so that people don't waste time just creating data, but rather look at data and take actions on that. So I think a lot of that was to relate it to standardization. If you ask me, I think the last one word for last 5 years is focus on standardization.
Thank you, sir. I think this question has come from many in the audience about this. How do you maintain the specs that you have in mind across many of the places that you are? While you have also answered to that question, I think the way in which you have approached it, I think these are very practical things, and it is not easy to execute on this. And if you do manage to execute on this well, it is very well understandable as to why customers keep coming back to you. Thank you very much. I think the next question is related to the business vision and mission. Yes, it was there on one of the slides. You have gone into from objectives to goals on. But then if you want to respond to the question, apart from the standardization and the R&D team, if you want to respond to the question that there are many brands of biryanis, and this is just growing in terms of size, where do you differentiate yourself from competition? What does that look like? What does that picture and positioning look like beyond what you have presented?
Yeah, so actually, if you ask me, I mean, so let's understand the market construct first, right? Indian food services is about $50 billion annual market, out of which biryani is the largest category. As you know, I think it is now well publicized that biryani is the largest category thanks to Swiggy, Zomato. Biryani market is 10%, which is $5 billion. 90% of the market is actually unorganized, which is largely local mom and pop stores, which have been there for a while, but they may not have the best standards of processes, quality, and so on and so forth, right? But they are local favorites, and people like them because they have been there. They are part of the culture. Paradise with is actually less than one. We are the number one biryani player in the country, but still we are less than 1% of the biryani market. So I would say that when people tell me, talk to me about competition, I said more competition is actually good. You have seen, even Jubilant has entered into biryani segment, right, which is the largest QSR player in the country. I was quite happy that day when the announcement came because I realized that in an unorganized market, if you have 2-3 brands, they are actually able to move the unorganized to the organized play. Customers are then experience better standards of service, consistency of food, so on and so forth. So I would say, that happened in retail, right? Till about 25 years back in India, retail was all mom and pop stores. Only when big supermarkets and, these Big Bazaar and all these other Reliance retail started to come, people realized that there is a value in going to these brands. There is a customer experience, there is a consistency, there is a value in going to that, right? So I think I say that yes, local competition, whenever we go, there is always a local competition. We respect the local competition a lot. We learn from them, but we are happy that more and more national players are also coming in it, because it will only make sure that the unorganized market moves to more organized, and it will actually grow the pie for everyone. If it was highly, market which already has 60-70% organized players and 3-4 players, then the challenge is not to grow the market or grow the category. The challenge is, challenge for the share of wallet. We are not there. I think it is still 10, 15, 20 years away. So it's very exciting time for us. We take a lot of learnings from our competition. We want to make sure that one specific point for local culture. So I think it is very important to connect with consumer. See, when we went to Calcutta, and Calcutta is, you imagine Calcutta is 2,000 kilometers from Hyderabad. They have their own biryani. In fact, in Calcutta, if you ask any person, they will say there is no biryani without aloo being potato, right? So actually, we said we want to be closer to the customer. So we actually went to the customer. We did a research, obviously, before launching. We said, this is a biryani where we'll give you aloo, and this is the biryani which is our standard biryani. So customer said, look, you are Paradise from Hyderabad. I want your Hyderabad original biryani. Please do not tweak your product to suit our taste, because I will go to my Calcutta biryani 4 times a month, but definitely I'll come or once or twice to your outlet as well. And that is what you need for your business. Having said that, I think connecting with the customer in their own culture is very important. So for example, we realized that foodie culture, there is a lot of strong foodie culture in Calcutta. And I'm taking example of Calcutta because it's a case study of a brand traveling 2,000 kilometers in a different socio-cultural region. And we just, invited foodies, known foodies, and said, look, please have food, give us feedback, and, if you like it, you can do whatever you do, which is posting videos on YouTube. In fact, that was the single biggest reason why the store became very popular. Couple of stores became very popular in Calcutta was because foodies came, they loved the flavor. They said, look, it is different from my biryani, but I love it. I will come once in a, and they like the standard of service, the quality of food, and all the other rewards which we are giving, values and all. So I think as we move into different markets, we are very cognizant of the cultural milieu and how do we connect with the customer in their own way. I think that is something which is important.
Thank you. I think, what is clear is that while you remain yourself, from what you are to how you're perceived by the local culture and the mechanisms in place in order to deliver on that is something which is extremely important. And I think the case study that you've given regarding Calcutta throws some insight into that. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you look at, you have mentioned certain frameworks and paradigms in terms of how this transformation has taken place. If you need to look at what are the critical success factors in the business that you run today, what would they be?
Yeah, so I think very simply put, you have to deliver a great customer experience. I think that's the simple, it sounds simple, but it's difficult. And that's what those 4 pillars are, right? The success pillars are those. If you have to make sure that your product is consistent. If you make an average product for scaling up, you may scale up to a while, but you will not be able to sustain. You have to have an outstanding product and yet be able to scale up, right? Second, I talked about customer centricity. You have to have new age tools. So today, for example, I'll give you, today customers give feedback on multiple channels, right? They are talking about you on Facebook. They are giving you feedback on Swiggy. They are giving you feedback on your own loyalty. They are filling in your comment cards. How do we collate all that and tell our team saying this is the customer sentiment? And this is where technology and data analytics plays a role. And that's what I was talking about, voice of customer. We have now a capability working with our partners to collate all this information. Just customer is giving us feedback, not only quantitative, but also qualitative, to convert that into a customer sentiment. And the focus is to say that this is your customer sentiment score, and we need to make sure that this is the benchmark and we move continuously. So that was customer centricity. And of course, if you have to sustain, you have to make money, and continuously your return economics on your restaurant have to be very good. You can expand and reach more and more customers, but if your restaurants are not making enough returns on your investment, then it will not be sustainable. And last is culture, which is, I would say, a continuous journey. You build a culture, you make sure that you understand what is the, in our case, we first had to understand what is the DNA of Paradise. We had to articulate it. As I said, those be good, which is essentially the 6 value systems which we have articulated. We have to articulate those value systems and work on those, find mechanisms too. So one of the things which we do is reward recognition. So anytime employee demonstrates any of those values, we have a concept of a dumb card. We call it dumb card because dumb is also about dumb, it's also about our dumb process, right? So it works well, and we give those cards to them, and it creates a lot of positive. In fact, in COVID, because they were working from home and all, we started the concept of virtual dumb card. So you will take a picture of the dumb card, put the name, and then send it on a WhatsApp, right? So, but appreciation and reiteration of value, saying, oh, you demonstrated, you went out of your way to serve a customer, that is passion for a service. So let's award you. So I think culture is the 4th pillar, and this is a continuous process, I would say.
Thank you. I think you brought in this element of collating, and apart from the customer service and culture, the need to dynamically understand what's happening, and then send it back to the business in the manner that you need to do. And I think this culture aspect is a great thing. Defining it very, very clearly, and then ensuring that you live up to that, or you foster that culture. It's not easy. It's not at all easy, and particularly in a transformation. And if that is being done, and if it is be good, then all those values, I think there's something very significant there. And I hope that it takes this brand quite a way in its journey. Thank you. I think that's the end of this cluster. And I'd hand it over to Professor Sudhakar Rao to take on the next cluster.
Thank you very much. I think it's evolving beautifully as the brand has evolved over the last 70 years. The discussion is getting more and more interesting. Now, I have very simple questions, and these questions are based on operations. So we finished strategy in the first cluster, and now we talk about operations. So some of the questions could be repetitive, but they are important. Can food business be run on corporate metrics?
And what do you mean by corporate metrics? The typical, I would say every business has to run on corporate metrics, right? So P&L, return on equity, we have investors, as you know, right? So I think the purpose of a business is to give returns to the stakeholders, right? Those stakeholders could be owners, they could be private equity investors. For a listed company, they could be, retail investors. So I think no business, my own sense is that no business can run without business metrics. So we are actually, in our company, we say that we believe in God, rest is data. So that's our, one of the things which we really focus is on data centricity and making sure that people are able to get data, they are able to understand data. While we are hiring people, even at senior leadership level, we are evaluating whether the person is able to take objective decisions basis data. So I think metrics, measurement, I learned this from my first boss back in Reckitt Benckiser 20 years back. You cannot deliver anything unless you measure it. And I still believe in it, because if you have to deliver something, you have to first start measuring, have a goal, have a strategy to achieve that goal, course correct as you move forward. And then, have metrics. It's like, your blood pressure, right? I mean, I'm talking like in my age, I have to start talking about blood pressure. But, doctor will check you before he will measure you on certain parameters. So I guess it's a non-negotiable in my view.
Right. In order to run our businesses, we need to be able to measure the businesses very well. And very beautifully pointed out that you believe in God and data. I think all of us believe in data, if not God, to that extent. Yeah, thank you. And we move to the second question in this. The role of suppliers is pretty significant in any business, and more so in food business like Paradise Biryanis. So what changes have been brought in your journey as far as the role of the suppliers are concerned, in the recent past at least?
Yeah, fortunately, I think the philosophy in Paradise has been that Paradise has had very long-term relationship with suppliers. Like Coca-Cola, we have relationship. In rice, we have relationship with Dawa, and so on and so forth, right? So I think in a way we were lucky that we had a very strong supplier base, very stable supplier base who had grown with the company over those so many years. So yes, I think what we have brought in is more objective metrics to measure quality. A lot of things in a legacy business happen on trust and faith, which is very, very important. I don't think it can be ever taken away. But you have to bring in metrics to measure quality. So today we have something called a daily quality report on critical metrics. So whenever a product is inwarded in our warehouses, there is a daily quality report which senior management, including me, get on my mailbox every day morning to see where there is a quality deviation and what we get to work. So I think what we would have brought in, yes, we have added new suppliers, we have added certain outsourced suppliers. So that is a continuous process. But I think the big change we would have brought is metrics to measure quality, which is again in the same same domain of measuring business, but putting a quantifiable metric to quality for your critical products on a daily basis. I think that's the rigor which we have brought in.
Right. Thank you. That's awesome, actually. As we keep reading these things, and we try to grapple with the data that is available, and we also experience these things. That is, health is a very important demand now across various segments, and therefore, on one hand, health is an important demand, on the other is sustainability. Big brands are moving towards health and products that they can ride on the platform of health. I think Pepsi is doing it in a big way. Now, what has Paradise done, or what innovations have been brought in to address this particular concern of health?
So, incidentally, Indian traditional food, which is part of the culture, has not yet got associated with any health issues, right? So practically, if you look at it, biryani, I haven't heard any customer say that, if I have too much biryani, I will have health issues. In fact, biryani is a product which is made in the most hygienic manner. For example, we don't use oils, right? We use fats, which are healthy fats, and it is essentially rice and protein, right? So, and the rice which we use also has the, one of the lowest glycemic index. So that's the very nature of it, right? It's a celebratory meal. So I think fast food players, players which have that they have kind of faced that challenge, and some of the brands have started acting on it. I believe that for Indian traditional players also, we will have to be cognizant of it. I don't think this is something which is really impacting us right now, but I think we are very cognizant of the fact that we will have to give healthy alternatives. For example, if there is a huge movement in future towards vegetarianism or veganism, we'll have to create options for people in that. Today, I think it's a very niche. So obviously we are focused more on standardizing our existing brand. But as we move forward and we penetrate more and more and the market grows, we have to be. So I think being cognizant is very, very critical. On second part on sustainability, I think it's the quality of suppliers that you work with, right? So your suppliers and their traceability is something which is very, very important. And along with that, I would say food safety is another factor, which is something which customers are increasingly paying a lot of attention to, right? So our suppliers who supply to us have certain practices. They have certifications which ensure that the best practices are being used, whether, how do you store chicken and what kind of processes are being used to process chicken and so on and so forth. So I think that is there. But it is, again, as I said, it is a continuous journey. You can't say that you have arrived. You have to be continuously focusing on more and more. There are certain commodities which still have to evolve in terms of traceability, right? There are certain commodities, certain, traditional commodities like spices and all, which have to evolve in terms of traceability. And I think that is going to be a continuous journey for us. But I think these, the sustainability and traceability is something which is very, very important. We have, focused on various small aspects on packaging, on our product. But I would say this is something which we have a long distance to move, and we will continue to endeavor towards that.
Great. The fact that you're cognizant of this requirement to provide alternatives for healthy or demand for healthy food or requirements of health is a pretty interesting issue. I'm sure it is up there for us on the agenda. Here is the next question, and Mr. Gautam, we all understand from anecdotal evidence. This is something which we hear about, that food is something when hands change, the taste also changes. It tastes different when different people cook the food at a simpler level. Now, against this belief, how do you manage your quality and hygiene when you scale up? And you scale up means you'll have so many kitchens, so many restaurants, and so how do you ensure that same quality is delivered all across?
Yeah, so I think these challenges were faced very early in 1970s and 80s by manufacturing organizations. You must have heard about the Toyota manufacturing system, Kaizen. And I think today, as a brand, continuous improvement, which is the essential philosophy of Kaizen, is something which we are also adopting, right? I mean, in fact, today there are a couple of Kaizen projects which are running in our company from a manufacturing side as well as on the front of the office side. But I would say 2 or 3 key interventions we have done, which I mentioned earlier, but I'll reiterate. One is automation. I think, standardization will come where you are not too heavily dependent on skill. You don't have to train people for 8 to 9 months or 12 months. A person with a base minimum training can also deliver. Yes, there will be certain part of your business which are extremely important and you need a different kind of training expertise which is built over years. But there are certain part of your business where you can make sure automation and there is a Japanese word called pukayoke, which is essentially mistake proofing, so that you don't make those mistakes. So that is something which is what we have done a lot of work on the kitchen side, on the back end side, to make sure that the errors are less and variations are less. Second is the people aspect. As you mentioned, I think people are very, very important in this business, from the kitchen side as well as on the service side. And continuous training and motivation is something which, which is, if you look at all the brands which have scaled up, and I've worked with some of them, one of the things which they really focus on is culture. Making sure working in a restaurant is not easy, right? I mean, you don't get offs on your weekends. So because Saturday and Sunday typically are the largest, so all our team members don't get offs on Sundays. They have a weekly off, but not on weekends. Usually you work till late in the night because your restaurant is open till 11 o'clock, and then after that you have to clean up, make sure the restaurant is ready, so it is late in the. So it's a very difficult. It's not an easy. You have to really have the passion to serve the customer, to be able to succeed that. The importance of the company in which you are operating is to create a very positive culture and high level of energy, so that people are able to navigate these, the nature of the job and be energized by it and start enjoying it. And you will see a lot of examples in the industry where people have entered as freshers and they have stayed in the industry for 20 years, 25 years, because they got that kind of culture to thrive, survive, and at the same time also enjoy a challenging ride and grow the organization. So I think training of people, building that culture with that, and secondly, automation. I think these are the 2 big themes, I would say. Of course, they are big themes in themselves. have a long discussion on each one of them, but I think broadly these are the two.
Yes, what is strongly coming across, as it has been reiterated in the previous previous set of questions also, is that a strong culture and cultural orientation for business, and then the energy, and of course, coupled with the automation processes, which will reduce those variances, is a very fantastic point. There is one question which has come up. This question is that till 2008, the moment you opened Paradise Biryani packet, it had an aroma which would enhance your appetite, something like that. And therefore, the question is, after 2009, there is a perceptible change that it is more towards yellow rice or yellow spicy rice. And this is one of the members in the audience has asked this question. Has this feedback come to you, or how do you look at this feedback?
Yeah, so I think it's a very valid question. See, recipe is, so recipe, there is no change in recipe, but let me tell you there is a change in occasion. Let me give you a parallel example, right? When you go to, let's say, a South Indian restaurant and you have a nice crispy dosa, you taste that dosa, it is brilliant in dining. But imagining ordering that dosa at home. By the time it reaches you, the best of packaging, you can put it in a Mercedes, bring it to your house. It is not the same. So, I am giving you an insider's view. There is not even pizza, which is the most delivered product. I mean, not which is what taught delivery to Indians, right? Home delivery. It was only pizza, right? What experience you get in dine-in, there will always be a slight difference in when you order at home. So when you talked about packet, when it is plated on your plate versus when it is in a packet, it is in your scooter or your car, it is shaking up, it is all mixing up. It is not, imagine biryani is in layers, right? So when somebody is serving you on your plate, he is going to give you all the layers. But when you are taking in a packet and taking home after 30 minutes, after all the shaking up, all the layers have got together. So that's why you find, okay, the rice is all, is the white rice, where is the middle rice, where is the... So I think there is this limitation. Having said that, I think brands have to continuously work on, because this is a reality, 30, 40%, 50% business is coming in takeaway and delivery. Brands have to strive to give that 100% experience even at home. So there are a lot of work which is happening on packaging. So many places we have actually moved from pouch to container. Hopefully in few months we will move, because container keeps your layers together, right? So we have done that. We have got some very good feedback on that. Of course, it is slightly costly. So, customer is quite sensitive. So we have to look at that. Similarly, we have to make sure that temperature of the product is maintained, right? See, if you have a biryani which is hot, it will taste different, but if it is cold, it will taste very different. So the same challenge pizza players had, the same challenge dosa players have. And I think every burger players, I mean, the biggest burger players, McDonald's and all, the biggest challenge is that the burger doesn't travel as well as it is, when you have it in the... Fortunately, biryani and pizza are the two categories which travel very well. Having said that, even then there is a difference. And I'll be very honest about it. This is there. Nobody can claim that they can give the same quality of biryani, because it just gets packed and it comes to you after half an hour. So I think it's a valid point. There is no change. There is no difference in recipe, because it cannot be managed. You can't have different recipes for takeaway and different recipes for direct, at the same kitchen. But yes, packaging and the way you are consuming it also makes a difference. Having said that, brands have to continuously strive to bridge that gap. And I think that's a continuous study. I mean, more and more innovations are happening on packaging. And I believe that will also help us do that.
That's a great point, Gautamji. I think brands will have to continuously strive for meeting the requirements of the customers in changing times. We read that biryani and pizza are the most ordered items on any online app across the country. And somewhere around 250 biryanis are ordered per minute in this country. This is aside of what people go out and eat in the restaurants and various restaurants in the country. And therefore, dining out is celebratory kind of a meal, whereas dining in is more convenient. So I think between these two extremes, or between these 2 points, brands will have to strive for making their stand very clear and making themselves relevant and probably be there in both the ends. I think that's what is the lesson. Thank you so much. And very happily, now I hand it over back to Professor Prasad for the next cluster of questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. I think this point about the culture and values is coming back again and again. So there was an associated question which is relevant. How is the next generation in the family going to involve itself in the business? Because culture has also a lot to do with the promoters, and in the case of a family business, a family. How has the next generation involved itself in the business, and what is the plan ahead on ownership? In the sense that, somewhere I happened to read that, and that was Mr. Ali Hemati who said that this brand is not so much of the owners, it belongs to Hyderabad. Somewhere in one of the articles he mentioned that. So in keeping all this together, the question is about, how is the next generation involving itself, and what is the plan ahead?
No, I think one of the best principles which I've learned, and I think in management, is segregation of ownership and management. And I think the brands and companies which have been able to do that have been able to succeed. And there are enough examples in India, like Marico just comes to my mind first. A lot of I think that's the same philosophy our promoters have always had. They're saying that, you have run the business. Now, if it has to be scaled up, we have to segregate ownership from management. There is an institutional structure which has an oversight on management through a board governed structure and everything. But I think beyond that, there is complete freedom for management to execute within the boundary lines of governance which are laid out by the board. So we are a very professional organization governed by the board, which has representation from our investors, from our promoter family, their generations, and so on and so forth. So the single answer to this is that they believe very strongly in segregation of ownership and management, and I think they have demonstrated over the last 6-7 years by creating this structure that this is the only way forward. So I think culture also has to be institutionalized. As a CEO, it should not be dependent on me driving that culture. It has to be, because CEOs will change and HR heads will change and so on and so forth. My job is to make sure it is institutionalized. There are systems and processes in place which take that culture forward. And there are certain non-negotiables around that. So yeah, I think the path is very clear, and the mind of and the vision of the promoters have been very clear, which is essentially segregation of ownership and management.
Thank you. I think that is a very, very interesting transition which is being seen. And with that, we now move into the cluster which is related to the pandemic and growth. Looking back, how did you sustain during the pandemic? Are there any specific HR measures which you'd like to highlight to us? And how did you adapt your brand communication post-pandemic?
Yeah, so I think it's been a very tough period for everyone. So if anybody says that we really sailed through without scars, I would possibly find it difficult. But I think on the people part, care, connect, and cost. These are three things which we believe very, very importantly during pandemic. So you have to care for the employees. You have to connect with the employees, especially in a period where you could not travel and meet employees, right? And at the same time, you have to make sure that the cost structures of the organization are such that you are able to sustain through a difficult period, right? You are aware, right? I mean, that restaurant business came to zero suddenly. And at least 25 to 30% of the cost of a restaurant business are all fixed cost, manpower cost, rental cost. The only way we were able to survive and thrive is through the connection with our key partners, which is essentially our suppliers in one way, because cash flow was an issue. So suppliers believed in us. They know that we are good paymasters. We talked to them personally, and we all worked together. A scenario where we could, defer cash flows till the time business came back, and that helped us. Similarly, rentals, we worked with our landlords. A lot of them were very kind enough to understand, because the market also like that. We were able to get waivers, and our employees, we were able to connect. We were able to transport them if they wanted to go back to their hometown. Company invested in that. When they wanted to come back when the COVID was over, because transportation and everything was an issue, we got them back. We sent buses from here or whatever. So I think if you ask me, care, connect, and cost, these are the three things which across our partnership system, whether it is suppliers, whether it is our landlords, whether it is employees, helped us sustain through this.
The other question was related to the brand communication once the pandemic got in, post-pandemic. Did you need to tweak?
Oh, so absolutely. I think, sorry, I missed that, but in fact, the first thing we did, it's there on my LinkedIn also. We actually over communicated on saying, see, assurance was the key thing. When COVID was getting over, it was important to assure customers about the measures we are taking for a safe dine-in, takeaway, or delivery experience, right? So we created a video, we showed them. In fact, before that, during COVID, we actually did a survey. You know, we had, as you know, we have a big database of about 15-20 lakh customers in Hyderabad itself. We send them a, send them a research questionnaire, simple one, asking them, what do you want from us when you when we open up? This was during the COVID times, right? And we got thousands of feedback on that. And this was like an objective thing. And basis that, if you see that video, which is there on Paradise YouTube, as well as on, so we actually told the customer that you told us this, and this is what we have done. You have told us that you need all these things in the restaurant, and this is what we have done, right? So we listened to the customer, we implemented those things, and then we communicated back. Even today, if you go to a restaurant, you will find communication outside the restaurant in terms of what all measures we are taking. We are also communicating about our vaccination status for it. So today, all our employees are vaccinated, minimum 1 dose, and a lot of them are, vaccinated 2 doses. So we communicate actively, because at this time, one single word which is important for customers, especially in services business, is assurance. Brands have to really over communicate and also be genuinely, authentically doing it. If you just communicate and customers come and find that, okay, you have communicated something, but you have not delivered. For example, one of the things which we did was contactless dining, which means that at that point in time, customers were fearful of touching a menu card, right? So we created a QR code where the customer could actually scan. The menu will be there on their phone. They can actually just place the order on the phone. There is, in fact, very minimal contact with the service staff also, because there were these assurance. We were wearing the mask and vaccination, but still customers are having that. So I think doing the right things, listening to the customers, and making sure that, I think assurance is the key word. We will have to continue to do this. I don't think that phase will work.
Thank you. I think that is remarkable. It also ties in with the point that you were making earlier, and something about evidence-based value creation and evidence-based marketing, where you get the data first, you understand what's happening with that, and then you try to deliver around that. So that's truly remarkable. The next question is about the changes which have happened over the last 2 years. If you look at dining in revenue, has it got back to the previous, Jan Feb 2019 levels? Is the ratio between dine-in and home delivery, has it changed? What is your view about where this will go going ahead?
Oh, definitely. So I think we call it on-premise consumption and off-premise consumption. On-premise consumption is dine-in, and off-premise consumption is a combination of delivery and takeout. And obviously the combination has increased, right? It used to be somewhere in the range of 35%. Today it is, obviously it went up to 80% during COVID, but today it's more like a 50%, 50-55%. Dine-in is still to recover fully, I would say, because a lot of dine-in is also dependent on corporates opening for us. Especially in Hyderabad, as you know, in high-tech city area, Kukatpalli, all those areas where there are corporates, the corporates are still working from home. A lot of people in IT sectors are actually not in their workplace. They are actually back in their hometown. So I think that is something which is still recovering. But fortunately for us, there is an uptick in delivery and takeaway. And as a result, we are able to, almost reach, I will not say that we have exceeded or make it 100%, but we are close to our numbers, which were there pre-COVID. And obviously we are keeping our fingers crossed that it should remain like that and grow.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, there is, what do you call, there's quite a bit of, given the kind of sector that you are in, I think what you said is very much reality. And the good point about that is the increase of the other segment to 50%. I think an associated question is about the role of cloud kitchens. And there are reports that this is bound to grow. There's some reports about becoming 2 billion by 2024. How does it work for you? I mean, you have shown the cloud kitchen model also in one of your PPTs, and where do you see this going?
Yeah, so back in the year 2018, there was a lot of buzz around cloud kitchen because it's an asset light model. You have to invest less and delivery was growing. But I think our learning, and that's where the omni-channel format came in, 1200 square feet, is saying that if you are dependent only on one channel, you are limiting your market. And as a result of it, you will always have, I would say, poorer return metrics. So we have done a few cloud kitchens and we have closed a few purely for the same reason. So in my personal opinion, and I think our institutional understanding is that omni-channel is the right way. You have to have compact stores. You have to have stores which are not dependent on any specific channel. It should be ideally equally divided. So 30% dine in, 30% takeout, 30%. So if suppose there is a lockdown and delivery is on, at least you can get 30-40% of your business, right? But if you are dependent totally on dine in, let's say most of the fine dine restaurants, then you have a problem. And that's the learning I would. So cloud kitchen for us has been mixed result, and we believe that they actually gave us the learning of the omni-channel model, which we now focusing on.
I think there is a lesson there too. I think we found this in one of our earlier webinars also, where a player whose brand is very high on the physical experience, the face-to-face experience. When it evolves in the phase of COVID, it happens to be more of a hybrid model, and I think that's getting reiterated here too in terms of the omni-channel.
I think you should look at this, right? The largest brands, Pizza Hut, KFC, Domino's, McDonald's, Burger King, have they done cloud kitchens? No, they haven't, right? So these are brands which have multicultural, multi-country learnings. And I'm sure the temptation of doing cloud kitchens would have been with them also. I think the reason why cloud kitchen has become so important is because some of them highly funded only cloud kitchen players came with an intent to change the game. I don't think that game is changing anytime soon. And proof of the eating is in the pudding, right? We have tried it ourselves and we realized that omni-channel model, which is opening all experiences to customers, whichever way they want to interact with the brand, that is the way to go.
Absolutely. I think even the e-commerce, which started all this, including Amazon, is going the same way, and there is some people are coming somewhere in the middle, and there are all sorts of experiences which are helping them. I think that ends this cluster, and I'd like to give it back to Professor Rao for the next cluster.
Thank you very much. That was stomach full. Very interesting responses to various questions asked by our audience. Mr. Gautam, how is the Josh?
Absolutely great, Josh. And it is almost going to be dinner time, so it's good to talk about biryani in any case.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we are on the last cluster of questions, and I have just 2-3 questions here. It's going to be very simple. And this cluster we named technology and change, basically. How is your technology or your deployment of customer-centric analytics? How is it helping you keep in touch with the new age customer across various digital touch points?
So as I said, voice of customer is one of the biggest transformation we have brought in, right? So back end, I talked about automation culture, but front end is all about, so big data is the buzzword, right? But if you do not make sense of big data, then you are nobody.
Correct.
You can imagine when we have 30 lakh customers who are coming to us, every quarter, every year, the amount of data we are generating. So I think we have invested in the last 4 or 5 years in partnerships, to build that capability to analyze data and act on it. So there is this whole program where the whole loop is customer experience, feedback, analysis, customer experience, right? And there is this whole CRM program which is on top of the data analytics to make sure that we are able to, meet our customer requirements, offer them value, customize experiences for them. For example, customer who is having a birthday or anniversary celebration, they will get a special offer from us and a special curated experience in our store, right? So I think that is something which is, I don't think it is now, I think it is hygiene. My own view is that if customer in any company is not data and technology centric, they will go down, right? So earlier it used to be the buzzword. Today it is, I would say, the DNA of any organization to succeed. So a lot of work has been done. Digital marketing, I think we have gone from zero over the last 3-4 years to saying that most of our marketing spends are actually on digital marketing, right? So, Google My Business to Facebook to Instagram, social media marketing, making sure we use YouTube. As I mentioned, I gave the example of the Calcutta, where getting influencers to talk about your brand, give them genuine, authentic experiences. So I think most of our focus in marketing is around technology, using customer data and funneling that into reaching out customers through multiple means, including digital media. So yeah, I think this is the way forward. This is the only way forward, if you ask me.
Great. This is the only way forward. Just out of curiosity, I'm asking this question, Gautamji. How does this new age customer look like? I mean, you have various touch points and you are sufficiently trying to reach these new age customers. But just to give 2-3 qualifiers on that, or 2-3 characteristic features of this new age customer vis-a-vis this heritage brand. I'm not talking about general new age customer profiling, but for you, how does that new age customer look like for a heritage brand like Paradise?
Yeah, so the nature of this customer, one, the new age customer is very little attention span. So that has an impact on communication, right? If you see, movies have become shorter. You are now having 5-minute movies also, right? I mean, so your communication, how you communicate to this newer customer has to be very pointed, sharp, and make sure that you do come straight to the point, right? So that is one point. Second, the new age customer is a variety seeker customer. There is the concept of loyalty does not exist, right? Even in food. So you have to innovate continuously to keep the interest of this customer alive. And this is where I talked about Kebab Festival. Every quarter there needs to be a new news. Even if you are a heritage brand, you have to continuously innovate. I talked about Chef Special. We launched new types of biryanis and all that. So because the variety seeking customer, if they get bored very easily, right? So they will go to somebody else. So you have to give that new news to these customers, right? So they are very informed and conscious also. So I would say that today, social responsibility of the brand, you should be seen as a responsible brand doing the right things, in your sphere. I think today's customer is very conscious about it. If you had to go to a shop to buy, 2 shops, one to buy shirts, if one brand is seen as more socially responsible, the shirt will be bought from that brand. And that I'm talking about youngsters. I'm not talking about. So I think a brand has to be socially responsible. I think we have done something there, but we have to do much more on that front.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy. Luckily, we are in a discussion with a 70-year-old brand. That's not short, that's not small. And therefore, there is enough evidence or insights on what it used to be some time back and what it is in the current day. So that insight that which you gave is interesting. And the other question that I wanted to ask you, Gautamji, is what are the key challenges that you faced in your journey of this expansion, embracing technology? And I'm sure there must have been challenges. If you recall any 3 top challenges in this change management itself.
Yeah, so change management itself is a challenge. See, basically making sure that you are able to turn the ship in a direction which will align to the future, right? A ship sails, it's a large ship, it sails in a certain way. You have to turn it slowly in the right way. So I think that's the reason I mentioned about change management in my first part of the presentation. I think it's the softer aspect. It is how you are able to empathize with the current situation, embrace it, make sure that you drive change at the right pace. You do not go fast. I mean, in a heritage business, you cannot be somebody like a bull in a china shop, right? I mean, otherwise, you have to be empathetic. You have to make sure that the change is driven at the right place. You have to make sure that you have high energy level yourself. You have to make sure that your team is motivated, because change is never easy. If you are doing things in a certain way and if you have to do things in a slightly different way, you have to get buy-in. You have to make sure that everybody is aligned. Sometimes there'll be differences of opinion. You have to be empathetic towards it, understand, try to get into the other shoes. So I think in I go back to the same four things which I said about change management, that drive change in the right way, make sure that you are empathetic, make sure that you have a strong face, you are a determined driver, and you have to have very high energy levels. So I think that is the biggest challenge we face, and that is what any heritage business, if they had to turn the ship, will always face. And that's the role of the leader and the leadership team to achieve this.
I was on mute. I was paying all attention to you. Yes, very nicely summarized by you that it is a leadership role. It is a leadership challenge, actually, whether it is heritage brand or any other brand for that matter. Very interesting. I'm taking a cue from what you mentioned sometime back in the previous set of questions. You must be also looking for fresh funding for fueling your growth abroad. Abroad is a plan which you have chartered in the initial part of the discussion.
Yeah, so abroad is a little away, I would say, a couple of years away, because we want to, as I said, there is a huge opportunity in India itself. Is there an active plan for abroad right now? No, but it's there definitely at the back of our mind to make sure that once we are able to reach a certain number of cities in India, then abroad will also become a opportunity for us. So is there any immediate actionable for that? No, but yeah, I think it's definitely on the plans.
Okay, great. One question I have is about your advice, how to grow this business, this HoReCa business, hotels, restaurants, and cafes post-COVID.
Yeah, so I think very simple, something which will remain the same, which is having a hero product. You have to have your product outstanding. So whether that doesn't change, whether it is COVID or no COVID, right? You have to have a great culture, which doesn't change. I think what changes among those four pillars, customer centricity doesn't change. In fact, you have to be more empathetic towards customers, their worries. So we are talking earlier, we used to talk about customer needs. Now we need to talk about customer needs and worries also. As a marketer, you need to assure the customer in addition to delight them, right? So I think that bit changes, that you become more, empathetic towards customer, not just focus about the commercial aspect of it and their needs. You also talk about, take care of their worries. And the last part is business model. So I think in HoReCa business, my view is it is going to be omni-channel. I don't think there is, we have to really look at the equation of revenue versus capex, the equation of revenue versus rental. I believe omni-channel compact stores are the way forward. So when anybody is trying to grow, please make sure that your unit economics of the restaurant is in place. If your first few restaurants are not making money, first make sure that they make money before you expand, because you may have problem with 2, but if you make it 200, your problem will get multiplied by 100. So you just have to be sure about making money. And this has become more accentuated post-COVID because the customer behavior has changed. So you cannot just rely on one channel, as I mentioned. You cannot just rely on you can't afford large rentals and large stores anymore. So I think that bit has changed.
Great. I think this is very, very interesting, especially last week we had a very nice discussion with the brand Naturals, which is in salons. And there also this point of focusing on unit economics has come out very, very clearly. And therefore, there is a resonance of thoughts in the way we look at business and in the way we probably have a perspective on how do we handle growing these businesses post-COVID. Omni-channel compact stores, that comes out very clearly by having a focus on the needs and worries of the evolving consumers in the days to come. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. We are almost at the end of the session, but I'll now take a departure from our practice and I'll allow one person to speak. That is Lakshman Kumar. He's refusing to key in his question, but he would like to ask you one. We'll just take half a minute for that. Lakshman, quickly.
Yes, sir. Sir, before that, I will give 2 lines explanation, sir. So I'm calling from US. So here, many Paradise brands are here. Okay. So they're using your name and they're making good money over here. Okay. So my question is, so we have to go to the frontline level shoes and understand their psychology and behavior, how their motivation levels and how their mindset, when they will go down and when they will go up, how they sustain themselves in the business going forward, right? So even I worked in a restaurant and I did my MS and PhD, right? So I know their psychology because I felt it on my own. Like a Trump worked on his own hotel in the front line, right? So my question is, have you ever worked in the front line in this Paradise restaurant to know their, to feel and know their psychological situations?
Absolutely. So in fact, if you do not work in the restaurant as a team member, you will never get an understanding. Right. So I've worked in kitchen, I've worked in front area. In fact, there is a very strong protocol of all senior management visiting stores, because see, unless you visit stores, help the team out whenever it is needed, also interact with them and understand what are the challenges they are facing, I think you develop that empathy. So yes, I think for any senior management who joins us, he has to work in the stores. There is a store induction program where they have to really talk to the customer, participate in the kitchen, make sure that they are, hands-on. And once you get that hands-on feel, then you have to make sure that your connect continues by visiting stores and all that. But I think that's a very important point, and thanks for pointing out, because all great brands, even irrespective whether you're a CEO or a steward, you have to make sure that you understand the store pretty well before you start running the business. So yeah.
One more question, sir. And I feel this is also most important would be definitely, sir, one has to manage himself for sure. You people have a great goals, right? Unless we tied up with the great goals, like tying a rope or putting a Google map from Paradise, Secunderabad to Himayatnagar, right? So then the Google map shows the way, so how to go, because you tied up with the endpoint, right? So then you are very strongly tied up with the endpoint. So here, the chairman or the owner of the Paradise have strong intention where to go and where to take the Paradise, right? There is some intention and you are driving those intentions, and you are driving your intentions too, right? So how do you manage yourself in a day? Because that self-management definitely will reflect in the everyday business life, right, sir? So on a day. So right from the wake up in the morning at whatever be the time, and right from the sleep, how do you manage yourself, sir? Because the Paradise brand is grown up brand like this. The graph is like this, right? It's not like flat or down. So that means everybody is rejuvenated with their management. So I want to know that, sir, self-management. How?
Yeah, so I think it's a big topic, and so in short, I would say respecting time. I think very important. Respecting time for yourself and your others. So whether it is your personal work or your work in office, whether you are doing meetings, if you are able to organize yourself and respect time, and I have learned that from a lot of international brands where people in the country that you are, Westerners have taught a lot. They're very, very meticulous about time, reaching on time, finishing on time. I think once you do that and you are organized, you will be able to navigate anything. The only thing is, when you do not respect time for yourself, you will not respect time for others. Things will be very fluid. So I tend to be very stickler for time. Sometimes people get irritated with me also, but I said that's my method to succeed. So I kind of focus that. Even at home, I'm a stickler for time. So among the various things which one does, I think this is one thing which has given me comfort, take forward very complex situations also.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Lakshman, for asking that question. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have had a fantastic session which ran from 6:30 to now it is over 8 p.m., especially at a time when the festival is being celebrated all around the country. I must thank for your patience and involvement in raising the questions and making sure that they are very interesting, so that the speaker responds in equally interesting manner, which has happened. So our day is made. We must thank all of you for your time and attention. At the same time, I also would like to thank Gautamji. I can't thank you enough for making it so strategic and operationally meaningful as well in the nitty-gritty that you have explained. And there are many lessons, but I would say I was bowled over by the detail that you have for Be Good. Be Good as a culture. And I'm sure people in Paradise Biryani, they eat culture, and that feeds their strategy. I think it's a very interesting point that is being pursued as a practice at your organization. And the segregation of ownership from management is another important takeaway. The other side of ownership of the brand being owned by someone, it is a moving brand ownership model. For example, initially when you start a brand in 1953, it is owned by the person who has started it. And subsequently, it is owned by probably a minimum number of stakeholders. And then the stakeholder base grows, and therefore it is owned by the customers largely. And then slowly and slowly, it is owned by a city. As Mr. Ali has pointed out somewhere, this brand doesn't belong to the owners of Paradise, but it belongs to the city of Hyderabad. And I hope and we look forward to see a lot of citizen consciousness activities taken up by Paradise Biryani in the days to come to align with that kind of vision. And I'm sure the current challenges are too many in terms of handling the pandemic, and therefore you're doing it extremely well. And you as CEO is steering it amazingly well with all your measures and metrics in place. We look forward to connecting with you again. And this session itself has been quite meaningful, and it aligns with our own vision, your passion of sharing some nuggets of learning with future generations and future leaders, aligns with our own motto of conducting these Wise Views interactive webinar series. Thank you very much for that. As Professor Prasad has mentioned, we get a little more wiser on holidays. So therefore, we continue to conduct this session. And I want to tell all the members of the audience that we are going to have this session on Dasara also on October 15th. There is no holiday for wisdom. We have to keep learning. We have to keep reflecting. I thank all of you. I thank Professor Prasad and all the members who have joined and spent their valuable time here. I wish you all the best. Once again, happy Ganesh Chaturthi and have a safe evening. Thank you all.